At least one military police officer and one protester killed in Sudan when paramilitaries opened fire in a sit-in in Khartoum. The clashes come after the military rulers and opposition groups agree to create a new sovereign council. Sweden reopens a rape case against Julian Assange, putting in a rival extradition request for the WikiLeaks founder, who's already wanted in the US for the release of secret documents. And after building walls, the US and Hungarian leaders are building bridges as Viktor Orban meets Donald Trump in Washington. Trump praises the right-wing leader, saying he's like me, a little controversial. Those are our top headlines here on France 24. I'm Alexander Orcott. Now we begin in Sudan, where one military police officer and one protester have been killed during violence in the anti-military sit-in in Khartoum. The clashes cast a shadow over events on Monday, which began with progress being made towards a joint military and civilian council. From the sit-in, Nadia Massi reports with Karim Yeaoui and Abdullah Malkawi.
The atmosphere at this protest tonight couldn't feel more different to how it's felt in the past couple of days. Gone is the singing, chanting and jubilation. It's been replaced here with real tension, with live fire and with tear gas.
What you've been hearing are real bullets. The aim is to scare protesters and put pressure on negotiators. The armed forces tried to break up the sit-in and remove the barricades, but people stayed in position. And we will continue to stay put until our ultimate goal has been reached.
Dozens of people were injured tonight. We spoke to a few of them at a makeshift clinic.
We were hit with sticks and whips. Those that attacked us wore the uniform of the Rapid Special Forces militia. There have been a number of serious injuries, including 4 bullet wounds, 20 to 30 gas attacks, and 5 to 10 fractures.
This has been the worst night of violence since Ramadan started. People here are blaming the RSF militia, loyal to the old regime. Protesters say tonight is evidence that Sudan needs systemic change, and that's why they intend to stay in the streets.
Sweden has reopened a probe into rape allegations against Julian Assange and will seek to extradite the WikiLeaks founder from Britain. The deputy chief prosecutor said she would continue the preliminary investigation, which was dropped in 2017 after Assange began a 7-year hideout at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. The Swedish move is a potential setback for the United States, however, which is also seeking to put him on trial over the release of a vast number of classified documents. Erin O'Kinkie tells us more.
Just over a year before the statute of limitations expires, Swedish authorities have reopened an investigation into a rape allegation against Julian Assange.
The Swedish courts on several occasions have examined the detention issue and arrived at the conclusion that Mr. Assange was suspected of rape on the 17th of August on probable cause, which is the higher degree of suspicion.
The plaintiff's lawyer said the prosecutor's decision shows the Swedish justice system is not influenced by the international media or political pressure.
As the side representing the aggrieved party, we believe that the prosecutor's decision is clear. It signals something important, and that is that everyone is equal before the law. Nobody stands above the law, even if your name is Julian Assange.
The accusations date back to August of 2010, when 2 women accused the WikiLeaks founder of assaulting them in separate encounters. Assange denies the claims, insisting efforts to extradite him to Sweden are part of a wider conspiracy to send him to the United States. The current editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, Christian Hrafson, said reopening the case would give Assange the opportunity to clear his name.
Since Julian Assange was arrested on the 11th of April 2019, there has been considerable political pressure on Sweden to reopen their investigation. But there has always been political pressure surrounding this case.
Swedish authorities will now seek to extradite Assange, which could hamper the United States' attempts to do the same. U.S. authorities want to try him for releasing hundreds of thousands of classified U.S. military and diplomatic documents. But for now, Assange's fate lies with officials in the U.K. British courts will rule on both extradition requests. Among their considerations, whether or not the U.S. request is politically motivated, as well as whether or not Assange would face the death penalty. A British judge has given the United States until June 12th to outline its case against the WikiLeaks founder.
Donald Trump has welcomed the right-wing Hungarian leader Viktor Orban to the Oval Office, where he praised his tough line on immigration. This marks a stark contrast with Trump's predecessor, Barack Obama, whose administration criticized Orban's government for eroding democratic values. Wasim Korne has the latest.
It's a trip that ignited controversy long before Viktor Orban even touched down in Washington. The Hungarian Prime Minister arrived at the White House on Monday, where he was met by Donald Trump. The two men discussed Hungary's plan to buy medium-range missiles from the U.S., among other things. But Trump made it clear the trip was also an opportunity to show support to Orban.
Viktor Orban has done a tremendous job in so many different ways, highly respected all over Europe. Probably, like me, a little bit controversial, but that's okay. That's okay. You've done a good job, and you've kept your country safe.
But praise from the president aside, the meeting between the two men has drawn outrage from Trump's critics, who say he has a penchant for illiberal autocrats. The concern has even crossed the political aisle, with two senators, a Democrat and a Republican, writing a letter to the president in which they say Orban has led Hungary on a downward democratic trajectory.
In recent years, democracy in Hungary has significantly eroded. Under Orban, the election process has become less competitive, and the judiciary is increasingly controlled by the state.
The senators also say Hungary's close relationship to Russia could threaten U.S. interests. They asked Trump to raise those concerns in Monday's meeting. The trip comes as Orban looks to strengthen his party's influence in the upcoming European elections. He has framed the vote as a duel between pro- and anti-immigration parties in Europe. Orban recently urged center-right parties to forge an alliance with nationalist groups after the elections.
Now, as we heard in that story, Donald Trump has praised Viktor Orban, pointing out that there are many similarities between the two of them, both of them, of course, on anti-migration platforms. For more details, Philip Crowther is in Washington.
Quite a lot of praise for each other in the Oval Office just a few minutes ago. Bit of an understatement from the President of the United States when he said that Viktor Orban was a little bit controversial like me. I think the main quote from the US President was when he praised the Hungarian Prime Minister for his stance on immigration specifically. And specifically in this case for putting up a block, according to the US president. Now that presumably goes back to the 2015 migrant crisis in Europe, when Hungary actually put up a fence on the border with Croatia and Serbia. Remember, of course, that US President Donald Trump would like to put up a wall himself on the border between Mexico and the United States. Donald Trump went on to say that he believes that Viktor Orban is very respected inside Europe and is somebody who is doing a tremendous job. Now, that's not necessarily, of course, something that many European leaders would agree with. Both of these leaders certainly have that one thing in common. They are controversial, as the US president just said.
The US Secretary of State has made a last-minute visit to Brussels to meet with EU leaders this Monday. Mike Pompeo is hoping to get the EU to back amid the escalating tensions with Iran. Washington has reimposed sanctions on Tehran a year after the Trump administration pulled out of the 2015 nuclear deal. James Facina has the latest.
Good to see you.
Very nice to see you.
Amid escalating tensions between the United States and Iran, Mike Pompeo makes a brief stopover in Brussels on his way to Sochi. Hoping to increase support for the US's stance towards Iran, Pompeo's European counterparts instead rejected the US's hardline approach.
Mike Pompeo heard that very clearly today from us, not only from myself, but also from the other ministers of EU member states, that we are living in a crucial, delicate moment. The most responsible attitude to take is, and we believe should be, that of maximum restraint.
Last week, Tehran announced it would suspend some of its commitments to the 2015 agreement that curbed Iran's nuclear program. This came exactly 1 year after Donald Trump pulled out of the deal and began imposing tougher economic sanctions on the country. The US responded by sending bomber planes and an aircraft carrier to the Gulf, and an assault ship is now also on its way. But tensions in the region continued to rise on Monday after Saudi Arabia claimed that 2 of its oil tankers had been sabotaged. One of the ships was due to collect oil destined to the United States, and Donald Trump has continued to put pressure on Iran.
We'll see what happens with Iran. If they do anything, it will be a very bad mistake. If they do anything, I'm hearing little stories about Iran. If they do anything, they will suffer greatly. We'll see what happens with Iran.
Threats that the US president says he isn't afraid to carry out. But leaders worldwide have called for calm, warning that a wrong move from either side could lead to further tensions between the two countries.
Now, whether you like it red, white, rosé or sparkling, there's something for you in the next story as France's biggest wine show is underway in Bordeaux. 1,600 brands from 30 different countries have turned up for a tipple as the organisers try to bounce back from a recent dip in sales. Peter O'Brien brings you a taster of the expo, to be consumed in moderation, of course.
The world's wines in one place. Vinexpo has opened its doors to professionals throughout the wine and spirits industry for the 20th time.
We have
1,600 brands here from 30 countries, including new ones like Turkey and Vietnam. This year's program has lots of variety, even if it's probably smaller than our previous ones in the 2000s.
What used to be the world's largest wine fair has struggled to keep up in recent years. It faces steep competition from similar events in other countries. The last Vinexpo in 2017 saw the number of exhibitors drop by a quarter. It's looking to reinvent itself and now organises shows in New York, Paris and Shanghai. Other innovations, the amount of organic wine on display, 15% more than last time, and a day of conferences on climate change and the wine industry.
One of the plants most sensitive to climate change is the grapevine. But up until now, none of the people who've been working on this issue for years have had a platform to share their expertise.
The economic benefits of Vinexpo for the city of Bordeaux are estimated at 85 million euros. Another advantage for the public, the day before it opened, they were allowed to come and taste.
And I'll leave you with news that one of the biggest Hollywood stars of the 1950s and 60s, Doris Day, has died at the age of 97. The sunny blonde actress, known for her wholesome image and a vast singing range, frequently topped box office takings with films including Pillow Talk. Her songs were a particular favourite of US troops returning from World War II, and today she's perhaps best remembered for her hit Que Sera, Sera. Well, that will be all for us on this edition. Do stay tuned for more news coming up on France 24.
What will be, will be. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart what lies ahead. Will we have rainbows day after day? Here's what my sweetheart said. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be.